Yo, welcome to the YouTube video, man. You know how it is. You know how it go. Rado on the way, and he here to stay. No shoe. He brought some game with him, you feel me? Now, today's game, today's nugget of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? What is the golden egg that the golden goose laid today? And I got something simple for y'all. Something very simple, very easy. And something that is very practical. You know what I'm saying? Today's nugget of wisdom is this. Why just be yourself is the best advice you could ever receive. A little appetizer, something I sprinkle aside. A practical guide to self-mastery. Let's get into it, right? So, the advice of just be yourself. Know what I'm saying? We hear this advice spouted and touted all throughout the internet. Just be yourself, man. Or, some people try to pose the opposite. Just be yourself is the worst advice you could ever receive. Don't be yourself, bro. That's the worst thing you could ever do. Yada, 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 yada. Many different spaces. We got the romantic space, we got the self-improvement space, and whatever other spaces that exist that I may not be aware of. But from my perspective, and as it relates to this video, the advice of just be yourself is like a double-edged sword. Depending on who you are, or to be more specific, the level of maturity that you've achieved in your life, this advice could be the best advice you could ever hear or the worst advice you could ever get and try to apply to your life. Now, how does that make sense? Like, what are the two sides to this double-edged sword? So, in the first case, just be yourself is the worst advice you could ever listen to if you're not at a certain stage in your maturity level or development. And what does this look like? You know what I'm saying? What is the threshold of maturity or development that you need to reach before that advice is like very good or very applicable? You know what I'm saying? So this is how I see it. You should not follow the advice of just be yourself if you're not at a point in your life as yet where you are conscious and aware of the aspects of who you are. If you don't know who you are in the true sense of the word, and what do I mean by that? If you haven't come to the realization that the aspects that make up who you are, your ideas, your thoughts, your beliefs, your convictions, your ideas, what you believe to be true about the world, your perception, if you haven't come to the knowledge that, one, you didn't consciously choose these things, and two, they were given to you by outside sources that you, at the time they were given to you, you weren't conscious enough to vet them and filter them in a way that suits your preferences. If you haven't come to that realization, if you haven't come to that realization, or if you don't have the current abilities or mental faculties to filter out these things so that the ones that are within you or that make up who you are the ones of your own choosing, then you should not follow this advice. Why is that the case? Because all of the things that make up who you are, your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs, your convictions, at that stage of development where you haven't really matured as yet, you don't know who you are. And to follow the advice of just be who you are, you falsely and mistakenly believe that the current you that you currently are is you, when it really isn't, because you didn't choose that for yourself. It was given to you. It was inherited. It was passed down. So you mistakenly believe that the self that was given to you is the true self, is your true self. And by you being that, you're not really being yourself, because it's not a self that you chose. You feel me?
Perfect.
I hope that made sense. Now, in the second case, when just be yourself would be the best advice you could ever hear, that's when you've actually gone through the process and you've meditated, you sat down with yourself, and you've gone within yourself. Pause. You've gone within yourself and said, you know what? I inherited this idea from my parents. It doesn't serve me now. I'm gonna get rid of that. I got this belief from my church. You know what? It's making sense. I see where they were coming from with this. I'm gonna keep this one because it still helps me. It serves me today. I got this thought pattern from my friends in the past. You know what? It ain't bad, but I could build upon it. I could improve it. I could tweak it. If you're not at the point where you're choosing who you are, on a day-to-day basis, you know what I'm saying? If you're not at the point where you're choosing who you are on a day-to-day basis, then don't be yourself, because you don't know yourself. You get what I'm saying? You don't know the true you. And the true you is only the you that you've chosen to be. That's it. That's all it is. So some of y'all might have questions. You know, if you're in the latter stage, not the latter, the former stage, you know what I'm saying, where you're not quite conscious that the aspects of you is yet. How do I become conscious? How do I truly become myself in the truest sense of the word? Don't worry, I got y'all straight. So I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, you could break this down into 2 steps. And don't think of these steps as isolated. They're not isolated in any type of way, shape, or form. You could think of them as cyclical. You could think of them as cyclical. You know what I'm saying? You start off at step number 1, then you go to step number 2, and then you go back to step number 1, and then you go to step number 2. You go, it's a circle. You know what I'm saying? So stage number 1, step number 1, whatever you want to call it, the awareness stage. This is the stage where you do the deep internal work and ask yourself, why do I think what I believe? Why do I believe this to be right? Why do I believe this to be wrong? Why do I hold these beliefs? Why do I hold this attitude or perception towards life? Why do I think the way that I think? Why do I feel the way that I feel? You know what I'm saying? It's really just going into yourself and asking yourself, why is the me that I experience in my day-to-day the way that it is? You know what I'm saying? You detach from your identity, you detach from yourself, your sense of self, and you look at yourself objectively and say, okay, this is the current me that I experience in my life. Why is he or she or it, whatever you want to flick and call it, why? And I'll just speak from my perspective. This is the me I currently experience in my life. Why is he the way that he is? What experiences did he have in his past that caused him to think in certain ways, act in certain ways, believe certain things, perceive in certain ways, have certain convictions and ideas about things? What were the influences that brought him up, that made him the way that he is? Did he get this from his parents? Did he get this from his teachers? Did he get this from his religion? Maybe he had a certain experience in the past that made him the way that he is. You have to look at yourself like a test subject. And what do I mean by that? You have to look at yourself objectively to determine why you are the way that you are. Once you could understand why you are the way that you are, you could begin to understand it and accept it as it is. And it's very important. You need to understand why you are the way that you are and accept the way that you are currently. You know what I'm saying? Accept the fact that you are a product of your environment. Accept the fact that you were a victim at some point in time. After you accept these things, then you could go about changing them. You could go about determining which ones serve you in your day-to-day life now, which ones don't serve you, and which ones just need a little bit of tweaking. You know what I'm saying? And then the second stage, very simple, it's the calibration stage. And essentially in this stage is where you go out into the world to determine 2 things. 1, whether you've actually changed on a deep and internal level. And 2, to allow the world to reveal more of who you are to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Now the first objective, you go out into the world, face the same situations that you faced in the past and determine whether you've actually changed. How do you do that? How do you see the changes? Do you begin to think differently? Do you begin to see differently? Do you begin to experience different? You know what I'm saying? If your natural actions and inclinations towards the thing that you're changing, maybe you had a certain idea about a group of people, and then you've done the internal work to change it. You would be able to test whether you've changed completely and deeply and internally when you go around that same group of people and your thoughts and your ideas and your emotions around them has changed. So that's the first objective of the calibration stage. The second objective is to allow the world to reveal to you more of who you are. Unfortunately, because things are the way that they are, we hold a lot of unconscious beliefs and biases that, we're just unconscious to, we're unaware of. And the beautiful thing about life, and I personally have the belief of life that everything that happens in my life happens for a reason, and that reason is there to serve me. You know what I'm saying? So if I have a certain experience in my life, that reveals something new to me, that's just something I could go back into the awareness stage with and determine whether this thing serves me or not and change it however I please. Until you get to the point where you are actively choosing who you are, consciously and deliberately, daily. And I'm saying because you do this process until the day that you die, honestly. But until you are doing this thing daily, you can never truly say that you are who you are. And you know what I'm saying? And depending on which side of the fence that you are, or which side of the blade, I don't know, from the sword analogy from earlier, that you inhabit, you know what I'm saying? This could be the best advice or the worst advice you could ever get. But I hope this helped you. That's the end of the video. That's the golden egg that the golden goose laid today. You feel me? Enjoy your day. Have a wonderful day, and I hope this helps someone. You dig?